next match for that. This is actually my boyfriend. So I think that these guys are quite funny because it's supposed to convince you that researchers are normal people, but I have a friend at home who's spending his Friday night building a computer. So, moving on. I'm a PhD researcher and I study stem cells. So stem cells, when I tell people that I study stem cells, they tend to think that I'm like growing human body parts, or maybe a bit like Dr. Frankenstein. But actually, just like most of science, it's a lot more boring than that. So my name is Shona Waddell. And yes, you did hear that right, my surname is Waddell. Exactly like how penguins walk, just like Pingu. I've had that a lot my whole life. But I like to look on the bright side, so I feel like the fact that it has the potential to describe me is quite good motivation to stay a healthy body weight, or also not get pregnant, which would keep my dad happy. So in case you can't tell from my accent, I'm from Glasgow. And I moved here to Southampton, and I like it here, I like Southampton, and I don't like it when people are mean about Southampton, because I think we've got a lot going on at the moment, right? We've got the new ice rink, we've got that cinema with the electrically reclining armchairs, and we've now got 3 Nando's, right? We've got loads of happy. So anyone who says it's depressing has clearly never been to a bar in the East End of Glasgow, because that is depressing. So like I said before, I studied stem cells, and stem cells are quite special because they can change to different cell types when you give them chemical signals. So I can relate to this quite a lot because after a few too many beers, I turned into a bit of an angry Glaswegian. And so for my project, I'm not studying how stem cells respond to chemical signals, I'm studying how they respond to surface patterns. And the surface patterns that we're studying are on the nanoscale. So nano is like just one of these buzzwords that people use for things which are really, really, really small. So I'm studying a mixture of nanobumps and nanopits. But tonight I'm just going to talk to you about the nanobumps, because when I say pits in my accent, people tend to think that I'm talking about like hamsters or cats and dogs, and honestly, like I haven't been able to work out why. So tonight we're just talking about the bumps. To get an idea of like how big these are in comparison to the cell, if you imagine, right, that I am a cell, okay? Right, stay with me. And the cells are round, right? So they're quite big. And so the cell comes along, and it goes like this. Okay? And you could call this waddling. And it encounters a surface, and it has a little bit of a feel to see whether or not it likes it. So I feel like I didn't really choose my PhD. I think more it was sold to me. And honestly, like I was a little bit tricked. So my supervisor said while he was selling this to me, he said over and over again, oh, it's published in Nature, it's published in Nature. Now, I'm sure like there's probably loads of people here who know what Nature is, but for those of you who don't know, it's a very prestigious journal in biology. So the fact that my project was published there was going to be this huge selling point, right? I had huge dreams. I was going to have loads of high impact publications, I was going to get loads of successful grants, and eventually become Professor Frankenstein. So, yeah. I feel like Nature is a little bit like, if you could compare it to perhaps like the BBC. So if you want to check the election results, you're probably going to check the BBC because you trust the BBC. And I trust Nature, right? You trust it to be correct. So but I think I'm quite an optimistic person. And when I started in the lab group, I met lots of people who said to me, after they've seen the project change hands over several years, which should have been a warning sign, they said to me, Shona, it doesn't work, it's all bullshit, and the cells don't respond to the teeny tiny nanobumps. And I was of course horrified, right, because it's published in Nature, right? So that means it must be correct. Now, yeah. So I had done like my lab coat up extra tight, and I went off to the lab, and after about a year, I came to the realization that actually, it was all bullshit, and the cells don't respond to the teeny tiny nanobumps. So Nature, to me, is not like the BBC at all, and with the way that you can contradict it, it's a little bit more like the Daily Mail. So, fun fact, if anyone's interested in Daily Mail contradictions, there is in fact a whole website dedicated to this called Kill or Cure, which lists in alphabetical order whether something can cause or prevent cancer. So some fun facts for you guys tonight. Circumcision can prevent cancer, and along a similar line, nuts can prevent cancer. The jury's still out for sex though, because the Daily Mail says that it can both cause and prevent cancer. But it's okay, you can still get off because masturbation prevents cancer. Although loneliness can cause cancer, so if you are going to have just have it with some friends around you, right? You don't have to. So I think that the main problem with this project was with the nanobumps was that the bumps, they were just a bit too small for the cells to feel. And really, like, I should have known a lot better because I had a similar problem with my ex. So after this, I was handed another project, and this time we were dealing with microbumps, which were a lot larger than the cell. So we go back to like the cell, kind of me being a cell, yeah, microbumps. If you imagine, like the bumps are more like watermelon sized, so they're quite a bit larger to the cell. So I was hopeful that the cells would recognise these, but it was still like an absolute joke of a project because I was studying the surface of mother of pearl from oyster shells. And it was kind of one of those projects that you read about and you think, how the fuck did they get the funding for that? So I was reading a paper, and it definitely wasn't to prepare for Bright Club. I was reading a paper where they were investigating the facial expressions of babies in the womb. And they were using music to kind of see if the babies would respond to the facial expressions. So the music came from two sources. One of them was from what they termed abdominal music, which was like some kind of sound system strapped to the mother's bump. And the second was intravaginal music. So I'm sure you can guess where the speaker was. I would definitely waddle with that. And the interesting thing is that they found that the babies did actually respond more to the intravaginal music with what the paper terms, and this is published, just so you know, the paper terms increased mouthing and tongue expulsion. So it sounds kind of like they were having a party and they're like kind of singing along to music, which is, I guess, is quite nice to think about. So going back to my project, when I'm told to grow stem cells on little bits of shells, I'm not really too bothered about where the funding comes from. Like I just take the money. So after the disaster of my first project, I was in like a little bit of kind of frenzied PhD state, which I'm sure there's probably loads of you who've done a PhD or are currently doing one, so you can relate to this, right? Because when like your eyes are all bloodshot and your hair is like a total mess and you're just constantly looking around for the next cup of coffee. So I wasn't really in a very good place. And yeah, so this is when I get to tell you the good point. So I'm sorry because I actually lied to you in my talk title because I did discover something. And it turns out that the stem cells do respond to the much larger features of the shells. So this would be like, yes, I published a paper. This is, yay! That's one of my supervisors giving me, so that's good. So this would be like when I traded in my ex for my current boyfriend, who's over there just to embarrass him. Yeah, so I'm not really sure exactly what impact this will have on the scientific community, but at least now you guys know the connection between jewellery and stem cells.